So I love listening to bebop and soul jazz records from the 1950s and early 1960s. Players like Cannonball Adderley, Wynton Kelly, and guitarists like Grant Green have been a huge inspiration to me. And one of my favorite things to do is to take the bebop vocabulary that these guys play and find ways to incorporate it into everyday blues playing. This will give you some new colors to work with and make your blues playing a little bit hipper sounding. So today we're going to look at a solo by the great tenor sax player Hank Mobley. And we're going to dig into one lick in particular that he plays over the 4-chord of a blues. Then we'll look at ways we can take this idea and make it our own. Let's get into it. So today we're playing a blues in the key of B flat, and to start out I'll play the whole 12-bar section of this solo so you can hear the lick we're going to talk about in context. Now as I play this, pay attention to what happens in bar 5 and 6. This is when it goes to the 4-chord in the progression. So like I said, this is a blues in the key of B flat. And the first chord in the progression is a B flat 7 chord. And over this section of the solo, Hank plays some nice, very inside kind of licks using the root, the 4th, and the major 3rd. Right, really bluesy, nice stuff right inside the chord. Then as it transitions to the 4-chord, he plays this really nice kind of altered lick with some nice chromaticism in it. And he ends that lick by landing on the note B flat, which in this case is a chord tone of this E flat chord. This is the 4-chord. This is where we're moving in the progression. And so he resolves onto a chord tone of that chord. That's the 5th of that chord. Then from here is where it really gets interesting. He kind of plays some slightly outside sounding stuff over this 4-chord. And the lick he plays is right, kind of an arpeggio lick, utilizing some really interesting notes, particularly this note A over an E flat 7 chord or an E flat 9 chord. Now where this note comes from and where the notes in this line come from is actually derived from the melodic minor scale. It's a scale called the Lydian dominant scale, and it's the 4th mode of the melodic minor scale. And played in E flat, the scale is root, 2nd, major 3rd, sharp 4. That's the note that gives it the name Lydian, right? That raised 4th. Then we have a perfect 5th, major 6th, and then flat 7. That's the note that gives it the name dominant, right? So Lydian, sharp 4, dominant, flat 7. And then we're back to the root. So you could also look at this as a B flat melodic minor scale. Same group of notes, but starting on a different root note. So this scale is derived from the B flat melodic minor scale. It is the 4th mode of that scale. But this Lydian dominant scale works particularly well over non-functioning dominant chords. Now, when we talk about non-functioning dominant chords, we're talking about chords that don't really resolve anywhere. A functioning dominant chord would be like a dominant 5 chord, like in the key of B flat. If we went up to and played an F7, that naturally wants to resolve back to the root. That's a dominant 5 chord and has this sort of natural built-in tension and release that wants to resolve. But there's lots of cases where you have a dominant chord that doesn't want to resolve, sort of a static dominant chord that's just sort of floating there. And in the case of a blues, the 4 chord is very much that type of a chord. So this Lydian dominant scale is really tailor-made for that type of situation. It gives you some options to kind of expand on the harmony and play some slightly outside sounding phrases, but still works theoretically correctly inside that chord. So this is the scale we're working with, and what Hank plays is this line kind of working his way up an arpeggio. Now this arpeggio is a great sound to use when you're playing things out of a melodic minor scale or any of the modes derived from the melodic minor scale. And what this arpeggio is actually a B flat minor triad with a major 7th on top and then a 9th on top. So you could call this chord a B flat minor major 9. Minor meaning it has a minor 3rd, major meaning it has a major 7th. And when you say a minor major 9, when you put that 9 on there, it's implying that you already have the major 7th in the chord. So that's the arpeggio, and you could play it by adding those notes within the chord. There's the major 7th, root, 9, minor 3rd, 5th, major 7th. You could play the root again there and then the 9, but I like to play that type of a thing. And that works equally well over a B flat minor chord. So you're playing like a B flat minor 6 chord and you want to use that melodic minor sound. That works really well. It also works over like an A dominant 7th altered chord, like a, any kind of altered dominant A7 chord. You could use that arpeggio as a way of playing the altered scale. Like if you were playing A altered to D minor and you wanted to play an altered line. But in this case, it works really nice over this non-functioning E flat 7 chord or E flat 9 chord. Right, to give you that Lydian dominant sound. So what he's playing is just sort of this alternating sequence. And then kind of sweeping down the chord at the end. So we can take this idea and expand on it and use it to come up with our own lines now that we sort of understand what's going on under the hood, right? And that's the real value of analyzing these solos and analyzing these licks. Sometimes it takes a little while to figure out where a lick comes from. What scale is it derived from? What type of arpeggio is it using? But one of the reasons I love to teach on this channel is that I can share some of the information that I've learned over the years and things that I've kind of figured out on my own with you guys to kind of give you a little head start on this stuff. So now that we understand that we're playing this B flat minor major 9 arpeggio and that's giving us the sound of this E flat Lydian dominant scale, we can start to use that in our own way to come up with our own lines over a 4 chord in a blues. So now I'm going to play over the backing track again, and I'll play a couple of times through the whole 12 bar form. And every time that 4 chord comes up, I will use something from this arpeggio to expand on the sound of that chord and give you a little bit of that Lydian dominant sound. And I'm just going to stick in this one position that we've been playing in here. Obviously, once you get comfortable with that, you can start to expand it around the fretboard. Play it all over the place. But for now, we're just going to stick right here. And I'll play some lines over that 4 chord in that one position. Alright guys, so experiment with this Lydian dominant scale over the 4 chord in a blues. Try using this minor major 9 arpeggio. It's a really simple little trick that will give you some very quick access to some outside sounds and a little bit hipper kind of bebop type harmony and phrasing in your lines. So until next time, happy practicing and take care.